Welcome back to Fresh Talk. I'm your host, Eric Toll. Today we have Pennsylvania Representative Brian Sims with us. Thank you for joining.
Happy to be here.
Now, you are our first out LGBT representative in Pennsylvania. That is landmark. How is that making you feel? How has it been on this journey?
Well, let me say something really important about it. I'm the first out legislator in Pennsylvania, but in the history of Pennsylvania's legislature, we have had LGBT members for all time. How does it feel? It feels pretty terrific. I knew doing it that there was a moral imperative attached to electing an out gay person. We were the second largest state in the country that had never elected anybody openly LGBT, and I'd known for years that when we were finally able to get somebody that was LGBT in chambers on the House floor, that it was going to make a difference. And we're 10 months in, but I think it is.
And it's great to have you in there. I mean, just recently on October 3rd, you introduced the Marriage Equality Act. What was your motivations behind this? And while you were working on this project, was there any inspirations? Was there something not just because you're in the LGBT community, but something more deep that was kind of motivating you for this?
You know, I'm a civil rights attorney by trade. I have been an LGBT civil rights attorney for most of my career. I was the president of the board at Equality Pennsylvania. And like most Pennsylvanians, I'm hyper aware of the fact that the state doesn't have any LGBT civil rights and certainly doesn't have marriage equality. I will tell you that I may never introduce a bill that has a greater title than the Pennsylvania Marriage Equality Act, but it was long overdue. And as I said at the press conference last week, most of the LGBT civil rights that we're talking about right now in Pennsylvania aren't innovative anymore. They're not progressive, they're not forward-thinking. They're the kinds of things that maybe 10 years ago would have been. Now they're just playing catch-up. Now we're playing catch-up to the states around us, we're playing catch-up to the federal government. But I know for certain that we have never been better poised in Pennsylvania for LGBT civil rights than we are right now.
And I completely agree with you. Through my research, when I was looking up this bill and on your work, and correct me if I'm wrong, you have over 31 co-sponsors in the House right now that are backing this bill. And how does that feel to have your peers, backing you in such a large scale?
You know, we weren't sure how many co-sponsors we would get on something like this. I think I was hoping for somewhere between 20 and 25, and as you just said, we're at 31 right now, and it's climbing every day. It's also bipartisan support, and so in Pennsylvania, with a Republican governor, a Republican House, a Republican Senate, the keys to successful legislation are making sure that you reach across the aisle, and we've been able to do that with this bill. And so here we are, we have a bill in the House, we have a bill in the Senate, we've got support from Democrats, we've got support from Republicans. That sounds like a recipe for success to me.
It definitely does. And I was just speaking with Representative Mulchaney earlier, and we talked about the American Family Association, and they recently just put out a request for people to oppose this bill and to actually talk to representatives to oppose it. What is your call to action to the LGBT community and the community in general to, how are they going to best support this bill and help this keep moving?
Well, one of the things that I know about the LGBT community is that we are at our best when we are telling our stories. And right now we have a lot of stories to tell. There are more LGBT families in Pennsylvania than there have ever been before. There are more children of LGBT parents in Pennsylvania than have ever been before. And so I know them getting out and telling their stories, talking about their lives, doing battle with somebody who would call themselves the American Family Association. There's a great line that a lot of Pennsylvania's LGBT families use, and that is that my family values taught me to value all families. And I think that's what we're seeing in Pennsylvania.
You're absolutely right. I think that is kind of a Pennsylvanian standard. We are very family-oriented. We're very small city-oriented, between here and Philadelphia. I mean, your center city, Philadelphia, great area, great people out there, and, it's kind of our sister city. And it's nice that we have that representative. It's nice that we have Mulchaney here, kind of carrying on your work and supporting you on a smaller level for us in Allegheny County. And, we've been facing a lot of things, and recently one of them too was discrimination. We had an alleged hate crime, and we just asked about that. And I was looking through our laws, and basically we don't. Everything's included except for sexual orientation. What is your push? What are you going to try and do to change that?
The spectrum, if you will, of LGBT civil rights is pretty easy to identify. First, I'll say Pennsylvania has none of them. The only LGBT civil right that Pennsylvanians have is second-parent adoption. And we have it through case law. We don't even have it through legislation. But the spectrum of LGBT civil rights is HB 300, a non-discrimination law in housing, employment, and public accommodations, a hate crimes bill, anti-bullying bill, and marriage equality. And I know that right now, those pieces of legislation are all active. They're gaining supporters every day. They are supported by the majority of Pennsylvanians. And we're watching a governor flounder because he doesn't know how to talk about how much hate he has for so many different people. You know, I woke up on Friday morning, the morning after I introduced the marriage equality bill, to hear that my governor thought that me getting married was like me marrying my sister. And to be honest with you, I think that speaks volumes about his character and volumes about his ability to at least look at issues that he doesn't agree with or understand. I know plenty of Republicans that don't support marriage equality, but they do so respectfully, and they can do so in a dialogue. Joking and quipping that me getting married is like me marrying a family member of mine is inherently disrespectful, but saying a bonehead comment when you're trying to apologize for a bonehead comment is just, well, is boneheaded.
Absolutely. I mean, his lack of education shows through and through every time. He actually was in the 4th of July parade in my local neighborhood, and he was met with some unhappy people. Not too many people in my area like him. So it was good to see that even in my hometown, in my home area, you know, people are realizing that he does not know what he's doing. How he's still there, who knows, but yes, hopefully not for long. So what are some other things that you hope to achieve, not even just with the LGBT community, but, you know, the community of Pennsylvania in general, to bring everybody together as a whole?
Honestly, the two most important things that I could do right now outside of LGBT issues in Pennsylvania are reform education funding and reform our taxes. You know, cutting $1 billion from education in Pennsylvania was a deliberate race to the bottom, and we're seeing it. You know, this governor made sure that our young people were going to school every day without vice principals, without nurses, without counselors, without music, without sports, and that's a recipe for failure, and we know that. And then our tax structure. Our tax structure is abysmal. We have a corporate net income tax that corporations know how not to pay. They know that they can go to Delaware and shift all their revenue to Delaware. And so because of this loophole, only about 21% of Pennsylvania's corporations are actually paying a corporate net income tax. If it were up to me, tomorrow I would get rid of our corporate net income tax. I would pass a commercial activity tax. I would pass a severance tax on drilling. We are giving away hundreds of millions of dollars each year in oil and in natural gas revenues. And what we need to be doing is we need to be taxing it. We need to be paying for our schools.
Absolutely. I mean, if that's going to help better our area and our, you know, fiscal economy, I mean, you have to do that. Now, and as you talk about the, you know, drilling and everything like that for natural gas, and people, it's a touchy issue with fracking, everything like that. How do you feel about that, and what efforts are you taking to protect, you know, the local water in the area, the environment?
You know, if it were up to me tomorrow, I would ban all fracking in Pennsylvania. Drilling, you know, I don't know. But I know that when it comes to fracking, that there really is, we've not been able to prove yet that it's safe. More importantly, every other state that has this type of a drilling has a severance tax that is intended to make sure that when you're removing our natural resources that we own, that you're paying for it, but you're also covering for the costs of doing it, potential natural disasters. And that's not the case here in Pennsylvania. So what we're pushing for is we're pushing this governor every single day to tax these drillers in the way that they would be taxed anywhere else in the country, the way that Republican governors and Republican legislatures have taxed them all over the country. Somehow that seems repugnant, taxing them here, and that doesn't make any sense to me. We could literally fund our schools. We could literally make sure that we could freeze property taxes on seniors, but we're not doing that. Instead, we're giving corporate handouts to corporations not even based in Pennsylvania.
Absolutely. Now, I'm going to ask another fun little question, too. In the future, do you see a little nameplate that possibly says Governor Sims?
Absolutely not. No, you know, I grew up on teams. I have a twin brother. I come from an Army family. I think that I'm at my best in collaborative environments. You and I are going to come up with a better solution to any single issue than one of us would alone, even if one of us was an expert. And I think that's where I think that's where I'm at my best, in collaborative environments like I am right now in the State House. I am anxious for us to elect an openly LGBT governor, but when that happens, I'll have helped get her elected.
Absolutely. I'm sure you will. And I like your collaborative approach to it. Actually, if our government was working like that right now, it'd be working. So right now it's kind of a crazy time period in government. How is this affecting your ability to work on the projects that you're doing?
You know, I want to be clear. When the federal government shut down, it didn't shut down Pennsylvania state government. You know, I'm still working, my staff is still working. But the truth is, most people don't differentiate between their state government and their federal government, or their municipal government. What they know is that government is broken, government is divisive, that nobody can agree, that nobody wants to agree. And so, yes, that does affect us every single day. When I reach across the aisle and I'm looking for support on a bill, you know, I have to explain my motivations are clean, my motivations are clear. I'm not, you know, it's not a red herring. And unfortunately, that's a byproduct of the current political environment. You know, legislators for the better part of 10 years have been telling us that they were doing their job when they refused to work with the other side. And they would say, that's how strongly I cared. I never once worked with a Democrat, or I never once worked with a Republican. That's how much I care. That's not how our government operates. And, you know, sometimes the oldest definitions are the best. A rising tide does lift all boats. We are required to get out there and work with each other, because when we do, and we're able to find a solution that's somewhere in the middle, that solution is inherently going to be better than we would have come up with alone.
And you know what, and I agree with you on that. I mean, when you have two sides coming together, you come on a compromise in the middle, both sides are represented, everything comes out fair, and I mean, there's always going to be someone who's going to have some issue with something, but more people will be equally represented in that effort, and I really like your approach to that. And I hope more of the viewing audience understands this man is very forward and direct, and he wants to work in a team. He is quintessential government and the collaborative works that we need to do. And I really want to thank you so much for being here. Is there any last little memento or tidbit you'd like to leave with our audience?
What I would say to people is that two things. First of all, you know, one party cannot have the market cornered on equality, or we will never have it. We need to make sure that everybody in Pennsylvania feels like they can be open-minded to the idea of equality. And two, I would say that this happens when Pittsburgh and Philadelphia and Reading and Allentown and Erie and Scranton team up. You know, Pennsylvania sometimes it can be a very divisive state, and you know there can be a lot of separation in this state. But on this one particular issue, and a number of other issues I can think about, but on this one particular issue, we're at our best when we're all working together, and that's what this is about. That's why I'm here. I'm going to make sure that I bring Representative Mulchaney and Representative Frankel and some of the leadership out here. I'm going to bring them out east. I'll bring them back to Philadelphia, and I'll be back out here again. This is how this is supposed to work.
I absolutely agree, and I'm so glad to have you as a representative of Pennsylvania, and it's so nice to have somebody who actually cares like you do, and you're so straightforward. You can just tell from talking to you that you're so straightforward about everything, and you know, you really care and are passionate about what you're doing. So remember, guys, in Pennsylvania, vote. If you have friends, you know, in Pennsylvania, you're out of state, tell them to vote. Tell them to call representatives and let them know what they want, you know. You make a difference, and he's saying that we all have to work together, and I completely agree. I really want to thank you so much for being here, and it was an excellent interview. Thank you very much.